Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Two Old Bucks. This is Old Buck Dale. We just got together with who?
Old Buck Dave back in
Old,
town.
Old Buck Dave is back in town, and we are going to play catch up on a few things. And I'm hoping he's going to finish telling me about his trip. But I wanted to, I wanted to tell you. You know what I was thinking? I was pondering. Now that I got you, back with me, I was pondering one of those things that trouble me, and
Oh, yeah.
tell me if this is not one
Troubling, huh?
no
All right.
One of Dell's greater ideas. As you know, by sticking your hand out the window at your place, it's hot out there,
Oh man, tell me about it.
right? So I know that they can make sun tea. You know how to do that,
Yep.
okay? I wonder if you could make sun pasta.
Sun
I
pasta.
wonder if you could.
Sounds
I
like a
wonder if
science experiment, buddy. Sounds like a science
no,
experiment.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if
I
it's
think you
possible.
should. Yeah.
If you can put something that'll absorb that this heat,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's ways. Maybe I don't know if I could do it with a burger, but something like pasta that just really just swelling up with water. I'm going to throw that out to some old bucks like Old Buck Terrier or something. Maybe there's someone else who'll try it, but I'm going to experiment with that.
This could be a
I
challenge.
I would love to not have to turn the stove on in this weather.
Tell us if you can make sun pasta. Everybody send us their recipes.
Yes,
Tell us whether they worked or not.
because of the when hot weather like this, firing up the stove to do anything, I always find that to be unproductive with the AC working its tail off to try to keep the place cool. So anyhow, these are the kind of things that we'll discuss more over our Starbucks venues or something. But anyhow, I'm
Yeah.
interested in your trip. I really I'm fascinated by all the pictures you sent, and I even have a couple of them as screensavers for my phone, especially that picture of that yacht. I thought that was amazing.
Oh yeah, that was
So
beautiful. That was.
bring it, bring
I
it.
got I got another story about that yacht too, as it turns out. Yes, I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Bring us up to date where we left off, and then kind of tie this thing up. All
And
right. So where did we leave off?
okay,
You were
so
heading down from up at the Arctic Circle. You were going to turn
yeah,
around and
we
come
had
back.
already talked about. We were up at Tromsø, which was the northernmost point on our trip, around 300 miles north of the Arctic Circle. I wanted to mention that we met a sweet gal there in Tromsø. We were looking for breakfast. First morning we were there.
This
I
is the
think it was
British girl. The British girl.
no. This is a waitress at the
Oh, a
at a
waitress.
restaurant. Yeah, we were looking for breakfast, and the only places were open were coffee shops. For whatever reason, the breakfast places didn't open until 9, and it was like 8 o'clock. Okay, so we were rolling, and we looked down this little side street, and there's like a little group of shops in there. So let's look in there, and saw this restaurant NYT. Okay, I said, oh, let's look in there. It doesn't look like a breakfast place, but so I walked in and so this girl there, she said, hey, welcome, da 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 da. I said, can you make breakfast here? She says, I can make you an omelet. And I thought, okay, this is a place for us. She already told me what I'm going to have for breakfast. So she made a spectacular omelet, two spectacular omelets. Her name was Louisa. You really talked to her for a long time about her life and places she's been. Her dad is a Sami, Sami. That's the indigenous people from that area. He lives up in the North Cape, or Nordkap as they call it, which is the northernmost point in the European continent. The other Tromsø thing I want to mention is our last night there. We went to the Casa Inferno. It was an Italian pizza place. It was just right down the hill from where we were staying. And I got to tell you, what a shock this was. It was the best, some of the best anyway, maybe the best gluten-free or any other pizza that I ever got. It was, the sauce was, it wasn't like a paste. It was sloppier. It was like chopped up, tomato chunks and oh, my crushed tomatoes and thick and juicy. And it was ridiculously good. And plus they had gluten-free Italian beer. So I kind of, that's as good as it gets,
Gonna cost you an arm and a leg to have that delivered.
Oh yeah. 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 That's probably the last time I'll see that stuff.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question about that. Do the folks up there take their coffee pretty serious? Are they coffee aficionados, or is it just sort of coffee?
Every coffee place we went was good. The only bad coffee we had was on one airplane trip. They were serving Starbucks coffee, and it was so bad in comparison to everything else we had. So, yeah, the coffee was good. I mean, you go to a hotel or just hit the coffee machine button, and nothing. I mean, they can make cappuccinos and all that stuff, but you just hit coffee, and it's great. It's great.
I would say that coffee drinkers, I mean, they have their preferences, right? We all do, but I think they know when coffee is really good. And I a couple times I said, "Wow, that is some smooth coffee." When I could get that again, and then sometimes you don't find it again. It is one of them things. So, all right. So I was curious about that. So you're moving out of there now, right?
Yeah. So we're moving out of there. So from on July 9th, then we flew down to Boda, where we had stopped on the boat briefly, and we were there for 3 days. And the boat is it's a 50,000 population, so it's a reasonable sized city. I think it's the largest city in the northern section of Norway, something like that. So it was only a 1 hour flight. That was our coldest day ever up there. It was 51 degrees and the wind was blowing, and it was nippy that day. But that's the worst it ever got for us. And that's what I mentioned. We saw that Sea Eagle sailboat that we talked about last week. Yeah,
a big, beautiful sailboat.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later. If I don't, remind me.
I will be interested. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, the other interesting thing about Boda, Boda was a nice area to walk around. Nice dock area with a lot of restaurants and not a lot of junk shops or anything like that. So it's nice. But interesting fact, Boda is where the U-2 spy planes refueled. Remember that? Remember the U-2?
Oh, yeah. Well,
so that was a refueling stop. The U.S. had this agreement with Norway to refuel the U-2s there, but the U.S. promised that the U-2s would not fly over Russian territory. That was the contract. So I think they lied.
Yeah.
They lied. And then once Gary Powers was shot down and Norway figured out that that the U-2 was going over, they said, okay, we're done. So, but
why bring the wrath of those guys on them then?
Yeah, U-2 was pretty much done at that point, I guess, anyway. Yeah, then July 11th, we flew to Svolvær in the Lofoten Islands. Now, this was just a short jaunt. I had mentioned this is where our ship had stopped for an hour when we were on the ship, I don't know, 4 or 5 days earlier there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much smaller. It's got a population of 4,700, much like the town we grew up in, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
47. I think that's about what our population was. So we had our first mini glitch at Svolvær. All right. So we get out of the airport. Figured, okay, there's going to be 10 taxis out there. Well, there weren't. So taxis were pulling up, but they were all reserved. So somebody knew something I didn't. And I tried to get in a couple of these taxis, and the guy said, "What's your name?" I'm like, well, what do you want it to be? He said, "This is not your taxi."
Said,
yeah, it's not your taxi.
Kind of like it's sort of a Uberish thing. They actually they don't hang out at the airport waiting for lifts. They just only on call.
Only on call. So then there was a tour bus guy had stopped there with his folks, and I pleaded with him. I said, "Listen, I can't get a taxi here." I says, "I'll be waiting all day." he showed me a phone number, and I said, I already tried that phone number. It was on the wall there. I said, it just, I try every option with my phone and add zeros and take away digits, and I cannot get a connection. And he said, what? He said, let me get these people unloaded here. He says, I'll do it for you on his phone, which I thought was really sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah. So he's calling. I'm standing with him, and he's calling, and like down at the other end there where the taxis come in, my wife is waving to me. We got one. We got one. Okay. So these two taxis pulling. So she still doesn't know the rule here, apparently.
Oh,
She says, we got one. We got one. And I says, oh, my wife says we have one here. He says, do you want me to cancel it? I says, yeah, cancel it. Yep, cancel. So he cancels. He says, sorry, buddy, I got to cancel it. Mistake. And we go over. I go over there, and the guy says, what's your name?
oh,
It is not my taxi. So we're back in the same boat. Okay. So a couple taxis come and go. Another taxi shows up. And I said, man, I really need a ride to town.
were you trying to make a connection there? Or is that why you were trying to get into town?
I was trying to get into town because that's where you have to be.
Oh,
You got to take a taxi from the airport to town,
okay.
which is not far, but it's you can't walk it.
Right.
And so I start putting our bags in the back of this taxi, and the driver jumps out. He looks like Captain Kangaroo, all right, which I thought was great. Yeah, so Captain Kangaroo jumps out, and he's kind of waving at me. And I said, man, he says, I don't know if this is your taxi. I don't know whether or not this is your taxi. I said, well, listen, it can be my taxi. And some woman's yapping in the background, and I said, listen, do you want to come with us? We'll all go in this taxi. We'll all go in my taxi. She says, I think that's my taxi.
Oh,
Yeah. So I said, oh, geez. So I start taking the bags out of the back of the taxi. She says, wait, you can come with me. We'll all go in together. So I thought that was a break. That was a nice break. That was
interesting that they
Yeah.
have one person. They you couldn't double up or anything.
Well,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
well, we did.
everything is
Yeah.
very organized, very strict.
Yeah.
No taxi for you.
No
Okay.
taxi for you. So we get in a taxi. The driver starts warming up. We start warming up to each other, and he's telling us about the area and da 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 da. And the woman gets dropped off first, and she gets her money. I said, no. We got you covered here, kid. You saved our lives. So he dropped her off, and I said, what's the deal with getting a taxi in this place? He said, well, you got to call the taxi when you land. He says we don't take reservations in advance anymore, because you're in another airport and you're flying here, and then you might get fogged in or you might get delayed, and then we're sitting at the airport, so we don't do that anymore. And he said the airport's so small, we don't just sit here on speculation anymore either. So what you have to do is you call this number as you land, and everybody else knows to do that. And so anyway, so that was the taxi dilemma. And so we got to our hotel, and he's telling us about, we had a good chat. And he said everything is by credit card up there. Okay, everybody's got the tap card. That is the preferred and 99% payment method for everything. I said, and I pulled out some money, and I says, can you take cash? And he said, no. He says, I could, but I can't make change for it. And I said, well, how about if you just kept it all? He said, oh, I can do that. I can do that. Yeah. So we had another big chuckle. Nice guy. And
That's a great travel story.
It was a good story. Yeah. It was nice. So we were
improvising your way through the system.
Yeah. It was great. So then we were in Svolvær for 3 days. That used to be the big center of the cod fishing, and they've got all these racks set up for drying the cod. And they turn it into bacala, as one of the names for it. it's now that
this town you're in now, this is just an intermediate stop to make another connection, or
no, no, we're
you're
going to
gonna.
spend 3 days there. It's a little
Oh,
town,
okay.
and it's kind of a jump off spot to visit other little towns. And it's also a jump off spot for kind of adventures, for sailing and for kayaking and hiking. Lots of hikes in the area. Rock climbing. There's rock climbing in the area, and
Well,
again, it's a real small town. It's cute, nice town. And again, when I say cute, it's not like these towns are not pristine, picture perfect. Okay, they're just like regular towns, particularly up north. The sidewalks aren't perfect. Uh, I noticed a lot of the yards, people just let the grass go natural in their little yards, which I thought was cool too.
well,
So it's not well manicured or anything like that, and it's a fish processing. No, their big industry now is they make fishing nets. Okay,
oh,
yeah, it
like
used to be.
big trawler nets or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. We saw the factory there.
Well, let me ask you this, Dave.
Yeah, ask me.
You built this. You built this trip. What makes you click 3 days? I mean, did you think of what you were going to do for 3 days? Were you gonna, I'm gonna hike, I'm gonna take a boat, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I mean, on
Yeah,
a town of less than 5,000, I would
yeah.
think
I
they would be
thought we would.
struggling.
Yeah, I thought I had planned to do a sail one day, an evening sail, which we did. It left at like 7 p.m.
Oh, okay. So that
Got
worked out okay.
it was almost 4 hours. It got back a little bit before 11. It was on a sailing ship. Okay, two wooden masts, owned by Captain Kenneth, and his employee was Sachi. They were really nice. I know I'm jumping around here, but since you
Two-man
mentioned
crew.
2-man crew, yeah, we
Oh,
chugged
wow.
out. Just
Well,
kind of cruised
what
around the area, went around different islands.
I'm trying to point out to our listeners is you built this. So you click on your computer. I'm going out in the SS Sea Eagle, and I'm going to take a 4-hour cruise. This is sight unseen, except maybe whatever brochure there was on the internet.
Yeah,
And you got there and you did it.
I did it.
And it was
Yeah,
a real boat.
it was real. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I paid in advance. I hope it's real.
I'm still fascinated by this. So anyhow,
Yeah.
you made it through these 3 days, right? You got through.
So yeah, we had a nice cruise, and and I'm joking around with Captain Kenneth, and I say, I have my sailboat down in Boda, and I took out the picture and I showed him. I said, here it is from the hotel window. He says, he says, your boat's here now. I said, what? He called my bluff. He said, and it had sailed to Svolvær, and it was kind of parked over in a kind of a private lagoon, I guess. So we sailed right by it, and it was just, again, it was spectacular.
So that's how it fit into the story. This is basically a three-masted, 108-foot aluminum hulled powered sailing vessel. I mean, it's just.
Well, it was
it's
80,
just
81 meters, so that's it's like, I don't know, 260 feet.
yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievably
It's
the
almost a
size of
football
this thing.
field. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
So
just so beautiful in the evening sunshine reflecting off of it.
so you had a good time in this little village. What was the next stop? I want to get you back here before we run out of time.
Well, we did a little day trip to Henningsvær, which was, believe it or not, this is a population of 470.
No.
This 47 keeps popping up. Yeah, 470 people. It's a little fishing village on a narrow inlet, really scenic. And it's clearly still, they've got, the heavy duty fishing boats parked there. But the tour buses had found this place. So there were 2 tour buses parked down the end of town. And so there were kind of a lot of people swarming the town when we were there, which took away. Of course, we're tourists too, so what's the difference? But we found a nice little rustic cafe and lots of wood, and it was a place where they had a lot of climbing gear and climbing pictures there, and the climbing store was right next door. So we just sat there and sat in the sunshine and sipped our drinks. It was nice. It was comfortable. And then we got on the bus, went back, had to change buses actually on the way back for some reason. But so our last our last night in Svolvær, we wanted to we got to have a fancy meal, and we knew the 3 or 4 hot places, but every place we went to was like, oh, you have a reservation? No. Okay, sorry. Our next opening is 1 a.m. So
Because the sun is still up.
well, yeah, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but they had,
Okay.
well, we don't have any openings for an hour and a half. Okay, and it was probably, I forget what time it was we did this. That must have been, I don't know, maybe that was after the sailboat. I don't recall. But so we went back to our hotel, to the Thon Svolvær, which was only a year old as it turns out. And it was just really an excellent hotel. And so I went to the hotel, and we had eaten light stuff at the hotel a couple of meals earlier, and their breakfasts were spectacular. So I ordered halibut. We both ordered halibut, and I got to tell you, it had to be the best halibut I ever ate. It was just wow.
Was I not teasing you about the fish? I
You
mean,
were.
that's got it. Those folks up there must be experts. They have
They
to be
know a little bit
experts at
about fish. Yeah.
dealing with fish and managing fish and eating fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a nice nice outing. Now, where are you? You're still in mid Norway. You got to head way
Yeah.
south to get back to where you started, right?
At this point, we're still above the Arctic Circle. Yeah.
Oh,
So the next, after our 3 days in Svolvær, and we jumped on a plane and flew to Bergen, which is in the southern part on the west coast. So now we go from Henningsvær, which was 470 people, to Bergen, which was 470,000 people. Big city, beautiful city.
I Googled Bergen when you sent me that photo.
Yeah.
I Googled it. I remember I said to you, no, that looks like a place you could explore.
Yes, and it sure was. Lots to see there. Different historic buildings, lots of green areas, parks, and they've got their area at the dock is a UNESCO protected area, kind of the fish market and that whole place. And unexpected pluses. I went to the Kunsthal Museum there, and they had on loan an Edvard Munch display, 34 paintings. It's the Scream guy. Everybody knows the Scream.
Oh, he did the Scream. Yeah,
he did the Scream. So these were 34 of his works that they had, borrowed from various places to put this temporary exhibit up. And it was really, really fun. They give you a little audio thing, but they've got these little triggers on the wall, and you just put your audio thing near one of these.
They have him here too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was really nice. It rains something like 239 days there on average. It's the most in Europe. Most rain in Europe. They average 160 inches a year. So we only got sprinkles the first day, but second, third day, got some good rains.
But it makes its way. I'm sure they figured out how to divert that back to the sea. I mean, I was going to say they probably are more than coping with the water flow back towards the ocean or something, I guess. Because I think it wasn't that far away from the ocean, near as I could tell.
Right. Oh yeah. Right.
So where from there? From there you.
Well, from there, what else there? Found a nice. We stopped and had a drink at hotel number 13 of all places, because the rain started coming down a little bit hard. We went in there, and it was really a funky looking place. I really loved it. And, talking to the bartender, and said, we want to just wait out the rain a little bit, and had a nice time chatting with him, had a drink. Yeah, then it cleared. And he said, remember, there's no bad weather, only bad clothing. So I said, well, I think our clothing's good. So,
good saying. Good saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So then after our
now, I know you're getting closer and closer to your
We're
departure.
getting closer. We're getting close.
So where did you go from Bergen?
Okay, so from Bergen, we took the train to Oslo.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it goes over the mountains. It's a spectacular train ride because you're going up, up, up in elevation, and then down, 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 back down. Cliffs, waterfalls, meadows. You get up to
And
Fins.
this is a scenic tour, right? This is
Oh
not
yeah.
this is nothing high speed about this at all. This is
No,
a
no, no. This
your
is
proper diesel engine, and it's
yeah. Well, I don't know how proper it was. We'll talk more about that. So anyway, so the high point is Finse, which is 1,200 meters above sea level. And then they have these glaciers there. I'm going to see if I can pronounce it. The Hardanger Joklen. It's the sixth largest glacier in Norway. And the high point is 1,863 meters above sea level. So that's, I don't know, 6,000 feet.
so now you're looking at all this stuff out the window of your train, because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where you send a picture. You send me a picture of that, so
Yeah.
you can see this.
Yeah, we were above the tree line there for a while. It was amazing.
So after that, it was all downhill.
After that, it was all downhill in a couple ways. So we're trucking along here, trucking along, and the train stops. Okay, there's no station there. The train stops, and there's an announcement. We have hit a moose. We have hit a moose. So, okay. So we sat there for 40 minutes while I don't know if they were inspecting the train, giving CPR to the moose. I don't know what, they didn't tell us any more other than we hit a moose.
Well, it might cause a big. I thought about that
a
when
moose
you
can
told
do
me about.
damage. Moose can do
I mean,
damage.
it might do something to the brake lines or something. So you didn't want to make a bigger mess out of it than it was, or
Yeah,
take anything.
yeah,
So you're now on the downhill run, and the train
yeah.
is now stopped, and
Now it's stopped.
you have a connection. That's what I'm trying to get. You're trying to make a connection.
Well, the good news is our connection is the next morning. Okay, and I did that intentionally because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why in a second. So we then the train starts up again. It goes like a half mile and it stops again. He said, "There are fires up ahead." Fires up ahead, and they don't give you any details. There's a fire up. Okay, so we sit there some more, and then we started going very slowly. And he said, "Next announcement is there is a problem with the engine. We will try to get to Honefus. That's the last town before Oslo. It's like an hour and a half from there to Oslo. And that would be the last stop on the train before Oslo." He says, "People not going to Oslo can get off at Honefus and get a bus there." I'm thinking, everybody on the train's going to Oslo, Well,
so
anyway.
you're doing the math on that one and saying they're going to need a fleet of buses.
Mm-hmm. He says people going to Oslo stay on the train as we might be able to make it to Oslo. So we go a little bit further, real slowly, creeping. He says, there are only 2 buses at Honefus. Not enough buses, not enough. So we kept creeping slowly along. We get to, as we start drifting into Honefus, he said, "The train cannot go on. Everybody onto the buses." But he didn't open the doors for a while because I guess they didn't really have enough buses yet. So when I think they got 4 buses.
Well, I should warn our listeners, if you're holding on to the edge of your chair now with this adventure, as I was when he was telling me this, you wonder if he's going to make it. So he does. He gets on the bus because he travels light. He's a smart traveler. He doesn't have a lot of baggage.
No, we travel light. When I was looking at this train ride back way back when, there were so many reviews that says, "Oh, it's just beautiful. It's incredible. You got to do it." There were equal number of reviews that said, "This train is a disaster. This train always breaks down. You will end up on a bus." I thought, oh gosh. Well, we'll take our chances. And that's why I decided not to book a flight out of Oslo that evening. So we're going to stay in Oslo. I said, well, it'll definitely get to Oslo by 7 a.m. So we did. We got to Oslo. The bus took us to the to the train station. Then we got another train from the train station to the airport. And you asked me about this before, and yes, that was a high-speed train between Oslo Central and the Oslo airport. That baby was ripping. He was just leaving cars, in his dust. It was a big hike. It was a good hike. Got to the airport, went to the Radisson Blue, where I thought I had a reservation. They said, "Oh, no, your reservation's at the Radisson Red."
A very common mistake. You know
A
what I
very
mean?
common mistake. But fortunately, it was only like a 10-minute walk. It was another Radisson at the airport, maybe 10, 15 minutes. So
See, I do things like you have the Radisson Garden or the Radisson Stockyard, and I always choose the wrong one.
So
So
then
you're now in Oslo, and you're. I'm going to assume you relax. You got something to eat. You chilled out, and now you at the airport, and this is the final leg of the adventure, right?
yeah, we did get something to eat there, and we sitting next to us was an Australian couple, and he says, we saw you in town getting on the train." I said, "Oh yeah, okay." So we had a good chat with them. They were doing a big journey. A lot of it was on a boat, and then they were going to Spain to meet some people. Next morning, it was like a 7:25 flight. So the Radisson said, "Oh, you got to get to the airport 2 hours in advance." So we got a 4:45 wake up. Okay, so we left the hotel at 5:15. By 5:30, we were through security. Then the flight was delayed to 8:30. And my wife said, "Oh man, we could have slept till like 7 o'clock or 7:30." So we got to Brussels, got to watch the Tour de France.
You saw some of that live.
Several days I saw parts of it live. Yeah,
it takes I know
it's in real time.
That's a real thrill for you, isn't it? But you've seen that before, haven't you?
Oh, I love to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the American commentators, but I could figure out who was doing what.
Well, that was an interesting plus for the trip. So
yeah, it was. So I'm watching the end of this stage, and I'm thinking, man, this is the same guy that won yesterday. That's incredible. So it became this is a rest day. This is a replay of yesterday. So we got to took off Brussels. So we were on Icelandair. So we were going to connect through Reykjavik, had a couple-hour layover there, then into JFK. And then we were going to stay overnight at JFK and then fly to Florida the next day.
That sounds like a straightforward, simple trip there.
Yeah.
So and I should mention to folks, you've been to Iceland, stopping on a couple occasions for business and for other reasons. So you're familiar with that airport.
I'm familiar with Reykjavik. Yeah. They gave my wife she got flagged for the random test, or the random baggage check. And they made her take out every single thing she had from both her suitcase and their backpack. And I'm waiting. And I finally talked to the guy outside there, and I said, "She's been in there a long time." He said, "Well, what's a long time?" This was the first wise guy that I came up against in my whole trip. I said, "I don't know, it's like 15 minutes. He said, "That's not unusual." I'm like, okay. I said, but we have been here 3.5 hours. We went to the gate an hour before, and we still can't get through passport control to get to the gate. He said, "Well, it happens." Okay. So we she finally gets through that. We go to the gate. There's another passport check at the gate. And of course, she gets flagged again for some reason. She's in a line with people that are, for some reason, they're going to get their passports checked again. And the girl who's doing it is new at the job. There's one guy in her group said, "To hell with." He just ran right past. He says, "I'm going." I'm saying to this other agent, I said, "Look, our plane is leaving in like 3 minutes." She said, "Oh, they won't leave without you." She said, "Everybody's going on the same plane." Okay. But it was real stressful. We got there, got to JFK. So, we were staying at a hotel in the JFK area, told the cabbie where we were going. So naturally, he took me to the wrong hotel. So that was kind of perfect end to a long day. So, I went in another, it wasn't a hotel. I don't know what it was, but they wouldn't let me in. But they said, no. He said, you got to go up around here. So he knows where it is. So I thought, okay, I'm getting scammed here. I figured I was getting scammed, but I was too tired to fight. And so then we got to the right hotel.
In New York, near JFK in New York.
Yeah. And then the next morning we took their shuttle into the airport, and then it was JFK to Charlotte to SRQ.
So the last 48 hours was the roughest.
It got rough
from the
again.
Arctic Circle all over hell.
It got rough again. Yeah.
It was the roughest part of your journey with bureaucracy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I was kind of picturing you making the connections, and I admire you for even scheduling that, because my one-stop trip sometimes becomes problematic. I wait 3 or 4 hours on a tarmac, so.
Yeah.
Well, you made it back, and I enjoyed this trip with you.
Brought some souvenirs back. Brought some cod. Bought some salt. My wife bought a bunch of yarn because she likes to knit, and she said,
"Did you bring me a T-shirt or anything, or a hat, or says I was in Reykjavik?" Or
I thought about it, but I didn't. Tell you what I did bring back.
What did you bring back with you?
COVID-19.
Oh my soul!
Yeah, I'm hurting.
Oh my!
I sounded a whole lot better than yesterday. That's why we couldn't do it yesterday, because I didn't really have a voice, but we made it.
What a trip!
What a trip! Yeah.
What a trip! Well, I wish you. I hope you feel better. Of course.
Well, you went through all this, so
I did, and I told you I did not like it.
You didn't like it, so I'm totally with you. I don't like it either. I just really don't like it, and we won't go into any details, but it's not something I want to do often or ever again.
Well, to all our listeners that follow us, and maybe somebody jumped in, this is real life adventures for two old bucks. We both reached the double seven, and
one of us doesn't know better. Thinks he's a globetrotter.
And we're still trying to do things that we might have to curtail or dial back a little bit, but
it was a nice trip. It was
all in all, it sounded like a wonderful trip.
Norway is just a wonderful country. The people were all very nice. Everything was nice. Yeah.
So, and sometime if you got the time, you'll have to take me to your favorite pizza spot up there near the Arctic Circle.
We'll go back. I'll take you back. Okay.
Hey, in the meantime, I want to thank all our listeners for tuning in and riding along with us on this adventure. Glad to have my buddy back, and all I can say is this is Old Buck Dell, and thank you for listening. Talk to you next time.
And this is Old Buck Dave, and I sure am glad to be back, and along with Dell. Thanks again, folks. Talk to you next time. Bye.